Hey guys, so I'm going to talk a little bit more about adjustment layers and using them in Photoshop. All right, so I've got this image here. I want to add a couple things to it just to take a look at it. One thing that so there's two ways to get to adjustment layers. First of all, you can go to layer, then you can go to new adjustment layer, and then here's a whole list of them. You can also find them at the bottom of the layers panel, which you see a whole bunch of different icons down here. Hopefully you can see over here, right? And so there's new layer. If you just want to make a new layer that's open, it has nothing in it. Just really quickly go through some of these. This is to create a group. If you want to group a whole bunch of layers together and put them in a folder, you can do that. But this little circle that's half blank and half filled with white is a new fill or adjustment layer. So you can open this, and some of these are the fill layers, like the gradient solid color pattern, like we were talked about. But all of these in the middle here are and most of these down here at the bottom are considered adjustment layers. So if you wanted to sort of change, for example, if you wanted to, let's just try the photo filter, for example, that's actually a filter where you can apply something similar to official photographic filter to adjust the color. So here it's a warming filter by default, and you can turn this on and off either here on the layers panel or actually within the properties window. So that's the original image, then you add the kind of this warm tone to it. So there's a whole bunch of different ones you can obviously do as well, but this is just an adjustment layer, right? And in the same way, we'll go ahead and get rid of this fill layer we made just by selecting it and hitting the delete key. But we can continue to add adjustment layers. Like, for example, let's say maybe I was interested in doing a hue saturation. I wanted to kind of shift some of the color in the image, maybe make it a little bit greener, give it a bit of a stormy look, perhaps. Something like that. So I'm kind of like adding these subtle different adjustments to my image as I'm going along. Let's do one more where we could do, say, color balance, where we're just shifting the color overall. So if I wanted to maybe even intensify the greens, and notice in the color balance I can do midtones, I can do highlights and shadows. So I could actually do something that we would call split toning here, where if I wanted to make like the highlights one value, like let's say more of like we could try kind of a yellowy cast, perhaps even make it a little bit warmer. But then if I wanted the shadows to be a different color, perhaps add some blue and magenta to it. It could, I know, easy kind of to overdo, but it's kind of has a kind of a purpley quality to it. But you can see the just before and after. So these are just like color effects, really. But it's all three of these adding together that shifts me from my original image. And what's powerful about adjustment layers, again, is its dynamic workflow, meaning that you can go into each one of those in and out in any order and adjust and readjust. So if I added this color balance layer, but I'm like, wow, now these highlights are really getting blown out. How what could I do about that? Maybe I'm going to have to see if there's something else that could affect that. Could hue saturation play a role? Could I even like come in here and do change the brightness a bit or something? Or could just come back and shift some of these colors to a different, for example, to a different hue. I can continually come back in and modify any of these in any order that I so choose or wish. So that's really fantastic and really powerful. And that's one of the main reasons why I use adjustment layers. Now, I'd like to show you one thing, which was, okay, I have an image here, but remember I had an image over here. And what if I wanted to sort of somehow put one image inside of another? How would I do that? One way would to be go up and do File, Place Embedded, and go find the other file that you want to put in the file. But I'm just going to show you a different way. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this image and I'm going to copy it to the other image. So the easiest way to do that, number one, is if I wanted all of these filters then I can do that. I just would have to select them all, like select one, then hold down the shift key and then select the bottom one, and then they're all selected. I can right click or command click on a Mac and say duplicate layers. And when I say I want to duplicate them, it's going to ask me, what document do you want me to duplicate them into? And so I need to go to the other image, this DSC2241, and I'm going to click OK. And when I do that, it's going to copy this information to the other one. So if I click on this image now, then you can see all of this new image that's info that's highlighted falls in to this old image. Now you can't see the old image because this one is on top of it, right? But it is there. And this sets up a really great opportunity for us to have a further discussion. So I'm going to click on this and I want to make this one smaller. So or maybe I'm just going to say, you know what? I really like the. Anyway, you get my understanding. I don't want to get too complicated, but I'm just going to change the size. And the easiest way to do that is you have to go to free transform. So that's going to be under edit. I'm going to do free transform. And then I'm going to get this bounding box and I'm going to hold down my shift key as I click on a corner. So I keep my scale to height to width locked and I don't get any weird squished images. But you can see, like, if I wanted to just lay an image inside of another, not something I would normally do, but still a little interesting. I'm even going to rotate this so I can get the horizon line, hopefully, to line up. It's pretty good. And when I'm done, I'm going to come up here and click the check. And that will finalize the resizing. But one of the things, we have all of these adjustment layers. And so we may want some of these adjustment layers to apply to one thing, but not the other. But right now they're applying, everything up here is applying to these, in both of these image layers below. So if I wanted to shift this, if I wanted to make sure that, for example, this original hue saturation is not affecting the image below it, the easiest way for me to do some of this is to move things around. So I could come down here and I could shift this hue saturation that way. And then at least this hue saturation is not affecting, it's not affecting this second image anymore, right? If I pull this up here, it's affecting it. If I pull it down, it's not. And of course that change is pretty subtle there, but still all of these other, like this fill, for example, if I don't want that effect to the small image, then I'm going to need to pull that down. So now it's only affecting the background image. But all of these up here, this is also affecting both images. So if I don't want these to like affect both of the images, there's something called a clipping mask that I can add. So let's do this one at a time just so we can see. We can see this photo filter first. Okay, so we have this and it's on and it's hitting both images. Now if I select that adjustment layer and I go up to layer and I say create clipping mask, what it's going to do is going to create, you can see down here, it created a slightly different icon. It shifted this, indented this a bit, and there's a little like bent down arrow right there. And that bent down arrow, what that means is this filter is only going to affect this image layer below it. So now if I turn this on and off, hopefully you can see that it is warming up this image, but not the image behind it, right? It's not doing everything. Now these other ones are still going to affect everything. So, but I can do the same thing. So now this one, it's just affecting this image layer, but not below it. So it basically goes down and finds the first image layer or regular layer to affect, and then it only affects that. So I can also attach that to this image. So now these three things are only affecting that secondary image. So that's pretty cool. There's lots of other great adjustment layers in here that you can play with. Even the brightness contrast. We haven't talked about curves, but curves is a favorite of mine. Exposure, which is going to just overall change the exposure. So all of these things are good for you to play with, get a sense of what they do. maybe even look them up on Google and like learn a little bit more in detail of some of the settings that they have. All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for watching.